Hello, friends. This is Hank, your pajama scholar, at 10:23. I've come with nothing at all to say. It's not to say that I haven't written a bit or enough, but it's all things that I think people, at least at this point, understand. You know, when you review the Constitution, you review history. I did dust off an old chestnut, which I was prepared to go into today. You know, the old anatomy of a psyop, and I pinned it over there behind me. It just, my camera wouldn't focus from that distance so you could read it accurately, so I'd have to set up an easel and all this other shit. And, you know, I don't want to go through all that nonsense. It's just too much friggin' trouble. So, maybe I'll get some other kind of camera or something, or bring it to the whiteboard or something. I mean, I'm in the process of cleaning the house and getting everything back in order. And we're getting closer. It just takes time. You know, to properly clean, you got to pull everything out. And you got to sort it. You got to go through it. Shelving isn't cheap. So I could tell you a whole lot of things that you already know. I could give you opinions on the militia. I could give you opinions on all sorts of different parts of the Constitution. I mean, to know the law and not abide by it makes words meaningless. To know Scripture and not make an earnest attempt to understand it, live by it, to live by the will of Christ and try and do what is pleasing to God. All these words have been written, points of clarification to help you understand. The talk is meaningless unless you have enough understanding to attempt to take the right action. I turned today to Maccabees 2:14. You know, and in lieu of having nothing else to say, I guess we can go and we can pull where the Lord led me today. Make of it what you will, because I'm pretty sure that most of you don't regularly read the Bible. And since I'm not a biblical scholar and I haven't gone through all of it, and it's probably best that you not call yourself a biblical scholar. I mean, a scholar is a scholar. But to be an authority on God, well, to me that borders on the blasphemous. So let's just see what this was all about today. I don't know precisely what it means, but I know how it made me feel. And I suppose as I explore it more deeply, it will reveal more of its substance to me. But after the space of 3 years, Judas and they that were with him understood that Demetrius, the son of Seculus, was come up with a great power and a navy by the haven of Tripolis or Tripolis, to places proper and for his purpose. And he had made himself master of the countries against Antiochus and his general Lysias. Now one Alchemus, who had been chief priest, but had willfully defiled himself in the time of mingling with the heathens, seeing that there was no safety for him, nor access to the altar, came to King Demetrius in the year of 150, presenting to him a crown of gold and a palm, and besides these some bows, which seemed to belong to the temple. And that day indeed he held his peace. But having gotten a convenient time to further his madness, being called to counsel by Demetrius, and ask what the Jews relied upon, and what were their counsels, he answered thereunto, they among the Jews that are called Assyrians, of whom Judas Maccabus is captain, nourish wars and raise seditions, and will not suffer the realm to be in peace. For I also, being deprived of my ancestors' glory, I mean of the high priesthood, am now come hither, principally indeed out of fidelity to the king's interest, but in the next place also to provide for the good of my countrymen, for all our nation suffereth much from the evil proceedings of those men. Wherefore, O king, seeing thou knowest all these things, take care, I beseech thee, both of the country and of our nation, according to thy humanity, which is known to all men. For as long as Judas liveth, it is not possible that the state should be quiet. Now when this man had spoken to this effect, the rest also of the king's friends, who were enemies of Judas, incensed Demetrius against him, and forthwith he sent Nicanor, the commander over the elephants, governor into Judea, giving him charge to take Judas himself, and disperse all of them that were with him, and to make Alchemus the high priest of the giant temple. Then the Gentiles who had fled out of Judea from Judas came to Nicanor by flocks, thinking of the miseries and calamities of the Jews to be the welfare of their affairs. Now when the Jews heard of Nicanor's coming, and that the nations were assembled against them, they cast earth upon their heads and made supplication to him, who chose his people to keep them forever, and protected his portion by evident signs. Then, at the commandment of their captain, they forthwith removed from the place where they were, and went to the town of Dessau to meet them. Now Simon, the brother of Judas, had joined battle with Nicanor, but was frightened with the sudden coming of the adversaries. Nevertheless, Nicanor, hearing of the valor of Judas' companions and the greatness of courage with which they fought for their country, was afraid to try the matter by sword. Wherefore he sent Posidonius and Theodius and Matthias before to present and receive the right hands. And when there had been a consolation thereupon, and the captain forgive me for a moment, I will continue. My apologies. like I say, or I said, I came with nothing to say. I didn't feel like unraveling that whole thing about, pulling out that old chestnut psyop paper I wrote. And never really finished. The one that got struck for making fun of Obama's wife's dick. That shit's strong. Holy moly. I got guys fucking cutting grass, which is good because I hate cutting grass. Anyway, let's get on with it. And when there had been consultation thereupon, and the captain had acquainted the multitude with it, they were all of one mind to consent to covenants. So they appointed a day upon which they might commune together by themselves, and seats were brought out and set for each one. But Judas ordered men to be ready in convenient places, lest some mischief might suddenly be practiced by the enemies. So they made an agreeable conference. And Nicanor abode in Jerusalem, and did no wrong, but sent away the flocks of the multitudes that had been gathered together. And Judas was always dear to him from the heart. He was well affected to the man, and he desired him to marry a wife and have children. So he married, he lived quietly, and they lived in common. But Alchemists, seeing the love that they had to one another and the covenants, came to Demetrius and told him that Nicanor assented to the foreign interest, for that he meant to take Judas, who was a traitor to the kingdom, his successor. Then the king, being in a rage, and provoked with this man's wicked accusations, wrote Nicanor, signifying that he was greatly displeased with the covenant of friendship, and that he commanded him nevertheless to send Maccabeus, prisoner, in all haste to Antioch. When this was known, Nicanor was in consternation and took it grievously, that he should make void the articles that were agreed upon, having received no injury from the man. But because he could not oppose the king, he watched an opportunity to comply with the orders. But when Maccabeus perceived that Nicanor was more stern to him, and that when they met together, as usual, he had behaved himself in a rough manner, and was sensible that this rough behavior came not of good, he gathered himself a few of his men and hid himself from Nicanor. But he, finding himself notably prevented by the man, came to the great and holy temple and commanded the priests that were offering the accustomed sacrifices to deliver him to the man. And when they swore unto him that they knew not where the man was, whom he sought, he stretched out his hand to the temple and swore, saying, Unless you deliver Judas prisoner to me, I will lay this temple of God even with the ground, and I will beat down the altar, and I will dedicate this temple to Bacchus. And when he had spoken thus, he departed. But the priests, stretching forth their hands to heaven, called upon him that ever was the defender of their nation, saying in this manner, Thou, O Lord of all things, who wantest nothing, wast pleased that the temple of thy habitation should be among us. Therefore now, O Lord, the holy of all holies, keep this house forever unfilled or excuse me. Therefore now, O Lord, the holy of all holies, keep this house forever undefiled, which was lately cleansed. Now Razias, one of the ancients of Jerusalem, was accused to Nicanor, a man that was a lover of the city and of good report, who for his affection was called Father of the Jews. This man, for a long time, had held fast his purpose of keeping himself pure in the Jews' religion, and was ready to expose his body and his life that he might persevere therein. So Nicanor, being willing to declare the hatred that he bore the Jews, sent 500 soldiers to take him, for he thought by ensnaring him to hurt the Jews very much. Now as the multitude sought to rush into the house and break open the doors and set fire to it, when he was ready to be taken, he struck himself with a sword, choosing to die nobly, rather than to fall into the hands of the wicked, and to suffer abuses unbecoming his noble birth. But whereas through haste he missed of giving himself a sure wound, and the crowd was breaking into the doors, he ran boldly to the wall, and manfully threw himself down to the crowd. But they quickly making room for his fall, he came upon the midst of the neck. And as he had yet breath in him, being inflamed in his mind when he arose, and while his blood ran down with a great stream, he was grievously wounded. He ran through the crowd, and standing upon a steep rock, when he was now almost without blood, grasping his bowels with both hands, he cast them upon the throng, calling upon the Lord of life and spirit to restore these to him again. And so he departed this life. That's all I have for you today. It's been Hank, your pajama scholar. Catch you on the flip side.